One stormy night, as thunder rolled across the African sky, a cry pierced the air inside a tiny hut built from red clay and banana leaves. "It's a boy," the village midwife whispered, her hands wet with sweat and hope. The baby's mother, Mama Amina, clutched him to her chest, tears of pain and joy mixing on her cheeks. "I'll name him Kwame," she said softly. "The child born on a hard day. He will be strong." Kwame's father had passed away before his birth, a farmer taken too soon by snakebite during the last harvest. His mother, a basket weaver, earned just enough to feed them millet, porridge once a day. But she believed, deeply, that her son was meant for more. Kwame grew up barefoot, his feet toughened by gravel paths and his palms calloused from carrying water jars from the stream. He played with slingshots made from old bicycle tires, laughed beneath mango trees, and listened to griots tell tales of heroes who rose from nothing. He didn't have toys or a school bag. Instead, he carved shapes in the dust and used charcoal to write letters on banana leaves. Other children mocked him. "Why pretend to learn, goat boy? Will the sky feed you for reading the stars?" But Kwame never fought back. He simply smiled and said, "One day, I will build something no one here has seen." At night, when the village slept and crickets sang lullabies, he would lie on a mat and whisper to the stars, "One day, I'll make Mama proud. One day, I will matter." Mama Amina often sat by the fire, weaving baskets while humming ancestral songs. She watched Kwame from the corner of her eyes, her heart heavy with fear and pride. She knew education was a luxury in Njambe. Most boys were sent to herd goats or fish the rivers, but her son had a fire in his eyes. A light too bright to be, snuffed out. "He's not meant to stay here," she whispered one night to the wind. "He's meant to rise." When Kwame turned 7, an opportunity came, rare as rain in Harmattan season. A group of missionaries partnered with the village chief to build a tiny school. One mud-walled classroom with wooden benches, no windows, and a blackboard smoothed from river clay. The whole village gathered when it opened. Some clapped, some scoffed. "What's the point of school?" grumbled an old man, chewing cola nut. "Let the boys fish, let the girls marry. That's how it's always been." But Mama Amina stood in the crowd, clutching Kwame's hand tightly. "He will learn, even if he's the only one." Kwame's shirt was torn at the collar. He carried no books, only a piece of charcoal and a tin can filled with sand to write in. The other children, mostly from better-off families, arrived with plastic shoes and pencils donated by the missionaries. As he entered the classroom, giggles erupted. "Look at his shirt. He smells like goats. Hey, charcoal boy, where's your bag?" The teacher, Mr. Demba, was kind but firm. He silenced the class, but the whispers never stopped. Every day, Kwame sat alone on the last bench, scribbling alphabets on his ikun thigh when his tin got kicked over. Every test, he scored the highest. But no one clapped. No one said, "Well done." They only laughed harder. During the annual Yam Festival, the school held a spelling contest. All the villagers came, drums beating, women dancing in bright wrappers, roasted maize perfuming the air. Kwame stood on stage, the only barefoot boy. When he spelled ambition correctly, the teacher clapped, but the crowd laughed. "What will ambition feed you, bush boy? Try spelling bread if you want to eat." Kwame looked out at the faces. He saw his mother's proud eyes, but behind them, fear. Fear that the village's cruelty might kill her son's dream. That night, Kwame didn't eat. He sat under the baobab tree, watching the stars. His mother came and sat beside him. "My son," she said, "they laugh because they are blind. Don't let their blindness steal your sight." Kwame turned to her. "Why me, Mama? Why must it be so hard?" she smiled, placing his tiny hand on her chest. "Because greatness is never easy. Fire does not burn feathers. It burns those who carry oil. You carry oil. From that night, Kwame changed. He still sat alone, still had torn clothes, but he walked taller. He smiled at the mockery. He let it fuel him. It was the dry season. The river had thinned to a trickle, and the village breathed dust. But inside, Kwame burned a fire of hope that someday he'd leave Nyamba for the city, to study under electric light and write with real pens. To prepare, Kwame started, collecting scraps, old books, broken pencils, charcoal bits, anything he could use to study. He made a small study hut behind his mother's house, covered with palm fronds and mud, where he kept all his treasures. Every evening after chores, while others played football in the open field, Kwame entered his hut and studied by lantern light, whispering words like photosynthesis, independence, and future. This hut, he told his mother, is my school. My future lives in here. The boys who used to mock him grew bitter. Who does he think he is? Too good. For us now. Always reading like some chief's son. One afternoon, while Kwame was away helping Mama Amina in the cassava field, disaster struck. Some jealous boys, led by the local troublemaker Jomo, crept behind his home. They laughed. Let's see if books can save him from this. With a match and dry grass, they set fire to the hut. In minutes, it turned to ash. The books curled, the pencils blackened, and the only lantern he owned shattered. Kwame returned to find a smoking pile where his dreams once stood. His knees buckled. He dropped beside the ruin, picking up the charred remains of a page. His mother came running. She didn't speak. She just hugged him, holding his shaking body. The village gathered around, some with pity, others pretending they hadn't heard a thing. It was just books. One man shrugged. He should be herding goats anyway, muttered another. Kwame didn't cry, but that night he didn't sleep. He stared at the stars, silent, lost. For days he stayed quiet. He stopped going to school. When Mr. Demba came to check on him, he only said, "I'm tired. Maybe they're right. Maybe I'm not meant for more." His mother, watching his silence, wept into her wrapper. One evening she sat beside him and placed a torn cloth in his lap. Inside it was an old photo of his late father, young, strong, and proud, holding a hoe in one hand and a book in the other. "Your father," she whispered, "was the first in this village to read. They mocked him, too. He died before he could finish, but he left his dream with you." Kwame touched the photo gently. Something inside him stirred. "Mama, can ashes grow again?" She smiled through her tears. "Even the baobab grows in sand. My son, yes, if the root is strong, it will rise again." The next morning, Kwame woke before sunrise. He fetched water, swept the compound, and wore his old torn shirt. And then, for the first time in a week, he picked up his only remaining pencil stub and walked back to school. His classmates watched in disbelief. Mr. Demba smiled. "Class, look closely," he said. "This is how ashes become wings." The sun had barely risen when a motorbike rumbled into the dusty heart of Njambe. The villagers looked up from their morning tasks. A stranger was rare. He was tall, clean-shaven, with polished shoes and a broad-brimmed hat. He wore a crisp shirt, and over his shoulder hung a weathered leather bag that looked older than the village itself. Children followed him like flies to fruit. Women watched from their doorways. Elders murmured prayers, for in Nyambe, a stranger always brought either change or chaos. The man walked straight to Njambe Primary School and knocked gently on the wooden door. "I'm looking for a boy named Kwame Adebayo," he said. Mr. Demba, the teacher, came out, eyes wide. "You've come from the city?" "Further," the man replied. "From Nairobi. I work with the National Youth Uplift Program. We search for gifted children in forgotten places." He reached into his bag and pulled out a crumpled exam paper. one Kwame had submitted months. A go through a traveling pastor who believed in the boy. Your Kwame scored the highest in the entire region. We almost didn't believe it. Kwame, unaware, was outside the school sweeping dust from the compound with a worn broom. When he was brought inside, he stood still, confused by the stranger's clean smell and formal words. "Young man," the stranger smiled. "You're special. You have a gift. We want to offer you a full scholarship to continue your education in Accra City Academy." The room fell silent. Even the breeze seemed to pause. Kwame blinked. His heart pounded in his chest. "But I have no shoes," he whispered. The man chuckled and opened his bag again. He pulled out a pair of black leather school shoes, neatly polished, then a set of books, a new backpack, a uniform, and, at the very bottom, a brand new pen with his name engraved on it. "Now you do." News spread like wildfire. The same boys who had mocked him now stared in disbelief. Some clapped awkwardly. Others looked away, ashamed. Even the elders who once said, "Books don't feed the stomach," now nodded slowly. Perhaps. We were wrong. Mama Amina wept openly, hugging her son tighter than she ever had before. "I told you, Kwame," she sobbed. "I told you. Your light was not meant to be hidden." The next morning, the village gathered to send him off. Drums played. Songs filled the air. A few elders even gifted him groundnuts and cloth. Mama Amina packed his small bag with her best food and tied a leather charm around his wrist. Protection from evil spirits. As the motorbike roared to life, Kwame looked back at the only home he'd ever known. "I'll come back one day," he said, eyes burning, "and I'll bring change with me." The villagers watched as the bike vanished into the horizon. For the first time, they didn't see a poor goat boy. They saw a leader in the making. As the motorbike crossed into Accra City, Kwame's breath caught in his throat. The roads were paved, wide and filled with speeding cars. Tall glass buildings touched the sky like silver spears. People rushed past him speaking fast English and wearing polished shoes and flashy clothes. He gripped his bag tightly, so, "This is the world of the giants," he whispered. Everything was loud. Buses honked, vendors shouted, screens flashed moving pictures. He had never seen an elevator, a traffic light, or even a proper toilet before, for a boy raised under a leaking thatched roof. The city was both a miracle and a monster. The school gates loomed tall, black iron, with golden lettering. Knowledge is light. Inside were green lawns, bright buildings, and students in neat uniforms. Kwame was introduced to the headmaster, a dignified man named Mr. Sarpong, who spoke with a thick British accent. "You'll be in Class B," he said, scanning Kwame's files. "Your scores are impressive, but know this, talent is nothing without discipline." Kwame nodded, eyes down. The first week was hell. Kwame sat in the back of the class. He didn't understand their big words or polished slang. He didn't know how to use the library system. He had no phone, no pocket money. His English was slow. His food smelled different. Some students laughed behind his back. "Look at his shoes, too big. He eats fufu with his hands. Is he from a farm or a forest?" Kwame felt the old pain, the same kind he felt in Nijambe. But here it was worse, because now he truly was invisible. One night, a senior boy named Luther approached him in the dormitory. Luther wore gold chains. He had a phone, expensive sneakers, and followers. "You're smart," he said. "You can make us all pass exams. You do our assignments, and we'll give you things. Shoes, phones, girls." Kwame stared at him. "And if I say no?" Luther grinned. "Then you stay a hungry bush boy forever." For a moment, Kwame's resolve shook. He thought of his mother eating alone back in the village. He thought of the fire, the ash, the hunger. But then he touched the leather charm on his wrist. "I didn't come here to be rich," he said quietly. "I came here to rise." He walked away, alone, again. But still standing, in the first term exams, Kwame ranked first in the whole class. Even the teachers were shocked. Mr. Sarpong called him to the assembly hall. This boy, he said, had every reason to fail. No fancy shoes, no help, no history here, but he has something most of you do not: hunger. The whole school clapped. For the first time, Kwame smiled not in pain, but in quiet pride. That night, Kwame wrote his first letter to Mama Amina. "Mama, the city is wide like the sea. It tries to drown me, but your prayers are the rope I hold on to. I am swimming, slowly, but I have not sunk, not yet." It had been 3 months since Kwame began excelling at Accra City Academy. His name now appeared on the school's top. Students bored. Teachers praised him. A few students, like shy Emmanuel and gentle Amma, began to admire his focus and kindness. But others, especially those from wealthy families, grew jealous. None more than Luther, the senior boy Kwame once refused. Luther now watched Kwame silently, his pride pricked. "He's making us look like fools," he muttered to his friends. "Let's see what happens when the star student falls." One day, Kwame was summoned to the discipline committee's office. There, on the table, lay something shocking: a cheat sheet with his name written on it, allegedly found under his desk during a test. Kwame's mouth went dry. "I didn't write this," he said, panicked. "I swear by my mother's life." But the teachers looked grim. Evidence was heavy, and the handwriting was eerily similar to his. Only Mr. Sarpong looked uncertain. "You're a bright boy, Kwame, but if this is true, your scholarship and admission will be withdrawn." The room spun. Kwame walked out in silence, knowing exactly who had done this. That night, it rained harder than it had in months. Lightning tore the sky. Water leaked through the dorm roof onto Kwame's thin blanket. As others slept, he sat up and stared into the dark. He wanted to run, to scream, to ask the skies why he was always tested. First, the hut, now this. But in the silence, he remembered his mother's words. "Even the baobab stands through the storm." The next day, as he prepared to pack his things, Amma, the quiet girl from Class B, came to him, trembling. "Kwame, I know who planted the cheat paper." "You saw?" She nodded. "Luther and his cousin. They bragged about it. I was scared, but I can't let them ruin you." Together, they went to Mr. Sarpong. She told everything: names, time, and even where Luther had burned a practice version of the cheat sheet, behind the science lab. An investigation followed. Security footage, previously ignored, was rechecked. The truth surfaced. Luther was suspended, his cousin expelled, and Kwame was not only cleared but honored. For bravery in silence, Mr. Sarpong announced at assembly, and for rising. Without hate, Kwame didn't cry. But when he returned to his room, he knelt and whispered, "Thank you, Mama. Your prayers held me again." A few weeks later, a surprise came. The National Science Foundation of Ghana sent a letter, inviting Kwame to represent the school at the National Youth Science Fair. Expenses paid. A chance to present his handmade water purification model, one he had designed using leaves and charcoal, remembering the dirty river in Njambe. Mr. Sarpong beamed. "You're no longer just a student, Kwame. You're becoming a symbol." The bus to Njambe was old and rickety, but Kwame didn't care. He sat by the window, clutching a small leather suitcase, dressed in a simple blue shirt and clean trousers. No gold chain, no shiny shoes, just dignity and the fire of purpose in his eyes. Around his neck hung a medal, awarded at the National Science Fair, where he had stunned judges with his low-cost water purifier. His project had been selected for international exhibition in Nairobi, but before that, he had one place he needed to go. "Home," he whispered as the dusty roads of Njambe came into view. Word spread quickly. Kwame is back. He won something big in the city. He's on the radio. He went on an airplane. An airplane. Children ran to meet the bus. Women dropped their calabashes. Old men sat up straight as Kwame stepped down. Mama, Amina, rushed forward, wrapped in her faded wrapper, eyes full of tears. My son has come back a lion," she cried, collapsing into his arms. He held her tightly, whispering, "I told you, Mama, one day you would rest, and today your rest begins." Kwame didn't come back empty-handed. He brought solar-powered lights for the school. He brought books, science kits, and clean water filters. He arranged for 2 new teachers to come from Accra and start a STEM program for village kids. He paid the school fees of 10 children whose parents couldn't afford it, and then he made a quiet visit to the spot where their hut once stood, now grown over with weeds. "From ashes we rise," he whispered, placing a small stone engraved with, "Here began the dream." The boys who once mocked him now stood at a distance, grown up, quiet, unsure of what to say. Kwame walked up to them and smiled. "No grudges," he said. "Your laughter made me stronger." They bowed their heads. "You've become everything we are not." "Not yet," Kwame said. "But now we can all try." The chief of Njambe called a village gathering. Under the ancient baobab, drums were played and libations poured. "Kwame Adebayo," the chief declared, "you were the son of a nobody. But now you are the pride of our land." They dressed him in fine kente cloth and gave him a carved stool with his name. Amina sat in the front, eyes full of tears, whispering to the sky, "Thank you, ancestors." He made it. The chief of Njambe called a village gathering. Under the ancient baobab, drums were played and libations poured. "Kwame Adebayo," the chief declared, "you were the son of a nobody. But now you are the pride of our land." They dressed him in fine kente cloth and gave him a carved stool with his name. Amina sat in the front, eyes full of tears, whispering to the sky, "Thank you, ancestors." He made it.